Hi, I'm Michelle Olivier, and you're listening to Hey, I Want Your Job, the podcast that looks at amazing jobs and what it takes to get them. Hi, and welcome to Hey, I Want Your Job. And today I have Bree, who has an amazing job that is oft misunderstood. So we are here to talk to her to get some clarification. Bree, honey, what is your job title?
I am the creative director for a national staffing company.
And so when people hear creative director, they think you work in animation or film,
Yes.
or at least in something super artsy fartsy, maybe like hip and cool product design. Like you work for, like, I think your example was Oakley, so maybe like Vans or something cool. They don't think, oh, yes, staffing companies. Of course they have a creative director. So, what does the creative director for a staffing company do?
I know when we met at a networking event and you were like, "Oh, you must be looking for a job. That sounds pretty boring." And I was like, "Actually, no. It's
I'm the
really
worst. I'm
fun."
sorry.
No. And so I talked your ear off for a minute and you're like, "You got to come on my show." You made it sound so much more glamorous than what my original thought was. But so yes, I do. I work at a national staffing company and we have 5 different business lines specializing in different core competencies of the kinds of people we hire for temporary and direct hire. So that's really like we're working for 5 different companies plus our own corporate office. And even though they share materials and we share knowledge between the 5 of them, 6 really, it's a variety of stuff that we have to create. So personally for my role, I work on brand identity and the graphic design and I also manage the creative team. So that would include graphic design, social media, and web design. And personally, day to day, I will work on a variety of marketing assets like brochures, ebooks, infographics, postcards, flyers, stationery, trade show events, the banners there, promotional gifts, and yeah, all kinds of little,
You are the swag maker.
yeah,
What? Okay.
and I
Now I'm
work
interested.
and let me preface it saying I work with a great group of people, eight other people in the department. So I'm not doing this alone, but so I manage the creative team and work closely with them on all the concepts and the strategy. And then that's all external. And then we also have another section of marketing that some marketing departments will not do this, but we also touch all the internal communications as well. So, from forms and manuals and memos and town halls and some training PowerPoints. So we kind of touch anything that needs a brand or a statement or a message. And then personally, I also will help with photography selection. And then like in the branches, we have logo signage, wall art, glass decals, so I'm helping design those items as well. And lately a lot more analytical pulling, and we do a salary guide. Most staffing companies put out salary guides. So that includes a lot of data pulling and analytic information on an industry like finance and accounting and that kind of thing. So yeah, so our business lines, we do have Ultimate Staffing, and that is here in Austin. So I have to give them a plug. We do have a branch here, and then Legend Finance and Accounting, Legend Technology, Adams Martin Group, which does our legal staffing, and then About Talent, which is our strategic stuff. So really
You do everything.
It sounds like we only work at one small company, but it feels like we have different clientele and different needs, but we all work together to create one brand, which is Roth Staffing. So
that was a very thorough answer, and I really appreciate it, because I think that gives like a really actually good impression of what this job is. That is, people think that it is a bunch of different things that it is definitively not. So that is fantastic. Who do you report to?
I report to the vice president of marketing. So yeah,
Okay.
and then so it's a not a huge hierarchy
Mhm.
for the company, which is great. And I work with and email and we to the right to the CEO often, and to all the senior leadership team. So it feels like we all have a great working relationship where we can all get a hold of each other and get direct feedback.
So one of the questions that I get a lot from people who, because I don't know what it is, but recently, like everybody thinks that they want to be in marketing and creative, and they're like, I can market. And you're like, hey, friend, the fact that you have an Insta account does not mean that you're a social media expert. Let me just like, right? If you
Yeah.
do not understand the concept of A/B testing, this is not for you. Um, so I get asked a lot. And so I would love to hear your explanation because it'll probably be infinitely better than mine. How would you explain the difference between a creative director and a marketing director?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I feel like as a marketing director, you really need to know a lot more about the business aspect of it. I am fortunate, in my opinion, that I get to focus on the brand identity and the look and feel more than I have to worry about analytics. What was the return on investment? What's our annual spend? What's our target audience? How much can we invest in this or that? So it's a little bit less of the business side and more of the external appearance and just the right messaging. I mean, being aware of your audience and what's working and that kind of thing. So I get to be more on the creative line of strategy than the business side, I would say.
That is a great and very reassuring answer because that's very similar to what I say, that the creative director is the one that handles like look and feel and the creative stuff. The marketing director sets the business vision and
Mm-hmm.
matches business needs. So yeah, got that one
Yeah.
right. But I was glad to hear that from you as well. So within that, one of the things that I am really passionate about when I work with all of my clients is candidate experience and employer branding. And that's very different from, I think, organizational branding, right? That like when you're talking about company branding, you're talking about more advertising of services and that sort of thing. Whereas employer branding is like, who are we as a people to work for? I know that that is obviously you're in staffing. So the entire idea is come work for us.
Yes.
So the service you're selling is literally come work with us. How do you as a creative director, like, how do you facilitate those conversations around finding ways to reflect in image, in content, etc., the idea of being a good place to work and a good company? Like what does that process look like for you? How do you achieve that?
Well, definitely with our company, our biggest differentiator, and it's in every meeting and every conversation we have, is our company culture. And so that is what we sell, not to every asset, to every audience. So whether we're trying to recruit internally and hire more recruiters to work at our branches, or whether we're trying to recruit temporary employees to work as ambassadors, or the clients, we're also trying to bring them in based off of our knowledge of culture. So there's so much of every single town hall, every communication is all about building a best place to work. So we put out tons of content marketing materials for our business customers to use in their own companies. How do I build employee engagement? What does DEI look like? How do I handle different generations in the workplace? What are some major benefits that people are looking for other than just monetary? So all of our content is free, and it's all about building authenticity because we've done it at our company successfully. So now we want to help you do it at your company, and it kind of sells itself. Like the ambassadors, the temporary employees we're trying to hire, they see that there's a bigger culture to join, and we try to bring them into that as well. But our customers are constantly using our materials to help. How do they build that whole program? What do they do for social awareness? So we do what we preach, so that we become experts at it. And then when we win all these awards for best places to work and best in staffing,
it's just, our trophy shelf is so full. It's really more of an irritant at this point.
I got to design the whole trophy wall, actually, and that was really fun. It was all the logos that we've won in a big wall graphic, and then shelves for the different trophies and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it brings a lot of pride into the role and the company, but that is our differentiator. So that's a constant conversation that we're having. It's how to attract based off of employee engagement. So
that's really interesting. I was on a panel yesterday, and we were talking about mental health in the workplace, and that how increasingly right now for candidates that they want to go somewhere that is going to respect work-life balance and is going to treat mental health as health. And we were talking about how do employers do that. And I, of course, shut off my mouth. I know you're surprised, Bree. What were the odds of that? And I said that I really hate, and I think everybody does, these perfectly posed, perfect like skin rainbow photos that you have for every like freaking company out there. We're like, oh, look, all of the perfect shades of brown, all standing arm in arm, clearly singing Kumbaya in front of our company headquarters and smiling with thumbs up.
yes.
And I'm like, nobody looks at that picture and goes, now that's a great company to go work for. Like, that's just not, I think when you were talking about like this whole coming from a genuine place, being authentic in what you're presenting in terms of what you're selling, I think that's so important. And that perfect like skin rainbow photo is not authentic, and everybody knows it. One of the things that I was saying that I find is more genuine and a way better sell is to, and I would love your thoughts on, Michelle, this is a terrible idea, and here's 15 reasons why, that to have current employees talking about when things went wrong, either at work or in their personal life, and what the company did to help. So rather than all of these, I've been at XYZ Corp for 15 years. I have grown steadily up the ranks and have enjoyed every second. All of my managers have been so supportive. Like, nobody believes that. Like, everybody has a bad day, right? So I would rather have testimonials of like, hey, I had a really hard period 2 years ago where I went through cancer, and the company was amazing, and they offered me, in addition to the usual FMLA, they were there and they're supportive, and I felt I came back to the same role, and like to talk about what that was. Or have a dad be like, I just came back from 14 weeks of paid paternity leave, and everybody's been really supportive, and I love it. And I think those kind of stories, or even one where an employee was like, yeah, when I first joined the company, the position I was in was a really bad fit for me, and I wasn't sure how long I was going to last, and I had a really honest conversation with my manager. They moved me to a different area, and now I've been here 5 years and I love it. That's the story that I want to hear to make me work there. Talk to me about good and bad parts of my idea, and why that would work and why it wouldn't, and why companies don't do it.
I agree with you. We do use, the various stock photo options, to download, and you see the exact same ones on every. I get them in the flyer in the mail. I'm like, oh, we used that photo before or whatever. Yeah. So
look, we have the same stock image account. Go team.
Yes, exactly. I know. And we do try to use real images on our websites as much as possible without, obviously things have to, images need to be updated if people leave and it was contentious or whatever. So that's something that it's a good balance of, we try to sprinkle in as much real stuff. So like under work for us on our website, it's all about Roth recess. So we have this we ask our coworkers to either do a push-up challenge or, we get them all engaged even virtually now. So we try to use all those images on our website and obviously on our Instagram so that it shows we're not posting a Getty generic stock image of people having fun at work or playing ping pong. I mean, it's real imagery. But going to, your topic of trying to make things real and show how things have gotten better, that's a huge push. And it's a huge topic for us to go ahead. And if something bad happened, the response time and how you solved it actually builds better engagement than if nothing bad had ever happened. All of our surveys that go out to our temporary employees and our clients show that anybody who had a problem with their paycheck or with an ambassador who came to work, if we solved that, they're actually way more impressed with our company and give way better scores than if everything kind of went according to plan and there wasn't really any problems at all. So problem resolution time has always been a huge focus with our company's goals. So I think that lends itself to show, hey, we're going to mess up. This is a people business. Nothing is scientific about it. People don't show up when they say they're going to. There's always going to be a possible issue, and how do you resolve it says more about your company than how did you keep it from happening altogether.
And I think that is so true. That what I always say, that it's not about not screwing up, because everybody screws up. It's about what do you do when that happens. And there are so many companies that don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
And they don't have the and now what, right? So yeah, I completely agree that focusing on those things is actually, I think, better. It feels more genuine, it feels more real, and I think that people are increasingly savvy about that. And that, for me, that's always one of the things I tell my clients is be genuine. And I hate when clients try to talk around things. How do you work on that with messaging for your organization? Because I think that I've never known an organization that doesn't fall into that trap at least once, right? Where they're you read their job descriptions or you read their about us and they're like, blah, 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 words, word salad words. And then you're like, so all of this is just to say we're nice? Why don't we just say we're not? I don't understand what's happening right now.
Yeah.
They're like, we provide a caring and supportive environment where we encourage individualistic behaviors while maintaining a cohesive feel and culture that people can really feel like they're part of, and da 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 da.
So yes, you have to have actionable items to go with the words you say. I mean, you try your best to come up with every solution to every problem. You're never going to be able to do that. For our company, for example, if something didn't go according to plan when you send someone out on assignment, we have 125% money back guarantee that anytime that they work plus 25%, we will refund you if they didn't live up to the expectations that we said that they would or whatever. But there's no way to always think of every solution that's going to happen in a people business. But I agree with you. The messaging just can't be nice, shiny words. Like we try and bring in everyone into the conversation. If we're we do feedback, and surveys and that kind of thing, but it's also what's important to you right now, getting people involved on social media to share their viewpoints, just trying to be as authentic as possible and not just put the shiny, glossy people on everything.
Okay, so you said you're in charge of social media. Does that mean you're the Wendy's Twitter person equivalent for your organization? Because can I just say, I do think that smartass replies to random tweets, that could be my new job, Bree. I feel like if this whole O&H thing doesn't pan out, the new Wendy's Twitter person, Boom, this chick
Oh
right here.
man, I really do wish I was able to do that. We do take a more conservative approach on social media. I'm not the only one in charge of social media. I
Sure.
manage the social media specialist, but we work with, the online brand manager, and obviously the VP of marketing, and we all come up with the strategy and the marketing plan of what we're going to roll out each month. A lot of our social is based off of social awareness and quality, and it's not just services. It's
Sure.
really about, we're in the people business, so that means every part of a person's life is going to be affected by their job, so it's their livelihood. So that's what I like about the industry I'm in. Designing for the industry I'm in is it's someone's livelihood, and so it's super emotional, and so then you become passionate about getting people employment. And I know you feel this way because you're in this role, right, as well. It's such a good feeling to know that you're part of making someone's life better by finding them the perfect role. And so anyway, that all trickles down into even your online brand, is what people are going through. And like you mentioned, mental health, that's a huge initiative for our company as well, making sure people are mentally handling the climate that we're in right now, and being cognizant to what people's struggles are with childcare and health and their feelings on the workplace. And so a lot of our marketing is about addressing those and asking polls and questions and providing a lot of like ebooks and infographics about those topics, so that they feel they're supported in their feelings about it. So we put out a lot of content marketing about that. And like our company has like the Calm subscription and Aptive, oh gosh, I'm saying that wrong, but workout app and that kind of thing, so that we can stay mentally healthy as we're working as well. So
That's very cool. I think one of the things you mentioned is about like we are much more conservative brand. And I just think so this is an interesting moment
mhm.
from like a corporate branding. I feel like, and this is your space, so tell me if I am totally freaking wrong. I often am. But I feel like we are at this precipice of change about what people are looking for and expecting from a professional branding. That historically, brands that had very professional, buttoned up kind of
Mhm.
approach were trusted, and those were the safe places. Those were the real job kind of vibe. And that now we're in this place where nobody wants to work those places.
Mhm.
We want the Wendy's Twitter guy, right? Like we want that's what we want, right? Is we want places that have a sense of humor, that
Mhm.
have a a vibe and a clear like who the hell are you kind of feel to them. Not everybody's funny. Not everybody wants to work with smartasses. I have learned this, Bree, because believe it or not everybody wants to work with me, which is obviously wrong.
What?
What were they thinking? But I would say that, that I see that shift. And I've been trying to educate some of my clients like, hey, if your color scheme is still gray and like the jazziest you get are a couple of like 1980s triangles,
Uh-huh.
you are not a destination employer. Like that's not what sells to people today. Am I giving bad advice? Am I wrong on this? What's your thoughts?
No, no, you're not wrong at all. And I think the staffing industry has been slow to modernize. So there's still a lot of 1980s corporate feel to a lot of it. And that's hard to attract candidates in this market. I mean, you're running up against so many issues when you're trying to attract top talent in this market, because first of all, half of them don't know what staffing is. Like, do I have to pay? Do I, who am I paying to get this job? Why can't I just go work for the company? They don't understand the process. So the first part is just informational about, what a staffing company is, but then why this one, right? And what sets you apart from like 17,000 different staffing companies, I think, in the United States. So yeah, so a lot of it goes back to us showing that the culture that you're part of, because you, as a temporary employee, you are our employee. So we might not get to work with you in the corporate office, but you are going out and representing us and Ross Staffing on assignment. So we need to make sure that they're part of that fun culture and environment and they're feeling it. So, that's all an issue, and a goal is to make them feel like they're part of us and not just part of, we want them to fit in with where they're working, but we also want them to know that they're still, we're their family too. So yeah, the staffing, a lot of staffing companies you go to are still really stuck in that business centric design. I feel like we're lucky in that we keep evolving, and I feel like our brand is one of lots of color, lots of fresh, trendy, design aspects. And when you show real people in the office doing real things, it doesn't look fake and glossy, so, and on top of that, I feel like our company has been one of the first. We were into social awareness a lot earlier than what some others are getting there in our industry. But from the day our company started, the mission, vision, values, and then I know it sounds cheesy, it sounds like Kool-Aid, but that truly was what they started with, was what is our mission, vision, values. And one of them, is about respecting the dignity and worth of every individual. That has been our key driver for years, before George Floyd, before there was a more woke approach to online marketing. We have been part of that discussion from the beginning.
So then I have to ask, it is Native American Heritage Month.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing for us?
Yes, you know what? We just had our strategy meeting yesterday about it. We're excited because we hired a new DEI director just 4 days ago. So we brought her in to, marketing and HR have been handling a lot of those discussions and how to accurately and professionally roll these different initiatives out. But we're so excited to have like a true expert coming into our company to get us even to the next level. And so our meeting was all about, how do we make it fair, real, and actionable for every group that we're trying to represent in our demographic of coworkers and ambassadors and even our clients. So how can we make them feel that we're recognizing them? So we're trying to come up with something that is and that's literally what we were talking about, is how do we make it fair enough so that no one group feels like they were left out of the conversation, but what can we also handle, for every group? Because that's a lot of work. We try to video and film, like for, Black History Month, it was, we went out to our Black community and our allies, asked for video testimonials of their thoughts and what's important to them, produced all those, so that takes time. Release them on social. We have awareness and perspectives newsletter that goes out monthly that talks about whatever group maybe is highlighting that month. Quotes from allies. We ask for, we post book recommendations. So that is a whole set of marketing that we're doing that's not even targeting our sales initiatives, right? But that's what I love about the role, is that it's not just like revenue. How can we hit all-time highs, which we are doing also. We're hitting all-time highs even in this new market of remote work. We're making it work, but it's also about how are we building a community that is respectful of everyone that we're hiring and bringing in? And, from within every group, we're making sure that we're trying, right? You can never be perfect, but you're trying to make sure that you're representing everyone and making them feel included. So
not answering as a representative of your organization, just as you, Bree, who, is a smart person and been around a couple of blocks with all of this. I feel like Native American History Month, Heritage Month, whatever the hell we are, I just feel like we have a PR issue, right? Like for Black History Month, you see all the stuff that you just talked about, right? Like you see the recordings and like the testimonials, and people change their corporate logo to the month versus something that's empowering. Pride, everybody is a rainbow for you and for you and for you. For Native American Heritage Month, we get maybe a memo,
yes,
maybe as like this distant afterthought. Women's History Month, right? You see all of this
so
like
much. Yes.
women's empowerment, etc. So why do you think that? I have some thoughts, but I have a lot of bias because, I mean, as the group in question.
Yeah, no, we need your
So,
feedback, because that was literally what we were trying to figure out yesterday is,
who do we know that's Native?
so yes, how do you ask for coworker engagement and not just start going, hey, do you have any Native American blood in you? Like everything that you do has to have coworker involvement. And so we were just talking about how we need to have a better forum for asking for, we have a new intranet, and we have a DEI platform where all our social groups are led by coworkers. We have a Latinx group, a Asian group, a Black group, so they all come together, and anyone's invited, and they post stories and comments and dialogue and try and get the discussion going. But that's the Native American group is one we're having trouble with, because it's a small population. There's very, very small population.
Blankets were effective, Bree. I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh yes. God. Freaking Columbus. No, yeah, that is a tougher group, and we literally are still working on what quotes can we pull, and what feedback can we get from our coworkers to make it as meaningful and show that we were trying as hard as we were with every other group to get coworker involvement. But yeah, it does come back to, you can't force people to be involved in your marketing initiatives or to comment, and it's not helpful to go, hey, obviously, like with Pride Month, that involves them coming to you. It's not something that it's appropriate to say, I heard you were, right? So it only works if coworkers feel that they want to be involved. Luckily, our company, this has been a huge initiative for us for a long time. So I know that they all feel comfortable coming forward and giving some stories or feedback and that kind of thing. But I will definitely come to you for more ideas, because we are working on that as we speak.
So I think personally that part of our problem is that, like, we're the one that doesn't have a clear color scheme. Like, I know that sounds dumb, but I think that sometimes it can be that simple. That, like, Black Heritage Month, there's a clear color scheme there.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody knows that Pride Month is all about the rainbows. For Women's History Month, you get a lot of pinks, right?
Yeah.
And then Native Americans, they're just like, I don't even, what the hell color is that? I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think you have that. I think that there is, because it is celebrating a myriad of cultures. So, like, my sister, who you would think would be sensitive to this topic, is a teacher. And I was like, so, Native chick, what are you doing in your classroom for Native American History Month, Heritage Month? And she's like, I'm a math teacher. I feel like that's social studies problem. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And she was like, okay, miss, I know everything about our people, which, like, that is so far from true. But I was like, I mean, well, you could start with the fact that the zero was introduced to Western culture from the Mayans. So
That is such a good point. I love that idea. I
she
hope
was
she
like,
uses it.
yeah, she was like, damn it. What was the easy one? Okay, fine. Mayan lesson. Right. And so like, I feel like there's always ways that like that you can incorporate them, but I do think that it's like how when I rail against resumes, right? And I
Mhm.
could be like, I will prove to you historically, modernly, all the ways that a resume is a fundamentally, inherently racist tool. And that if you use resumes in your hiring process, you are predicating all of your hiring on a racist tool. And people are like, oh shit, I don't want to be that guy. Right. And like they listen and they're like, oh my God, you're totally right. But then when they're like, so what do we do instead? I'm like, well, that's complicated. And then like, I have to talk them through a very complicated process. And they're like, I was with you until it got complicated. And
Mhm.
like, and I feel like that's part of it, right? That like, okay, Native Americans, yeah, rah, we should be great. We don't treat them well, including today. What are things that we can do? But at the same time, like there's not a really easy answer.
Yeah.
So the kind of tokenism and simple gestures that you see that on the one hand DEI people complain about, that
Mhm.
all you get is
Yeah.
a rainbow logo for a month of June,
Right.
right? Without any real change. We don't even give you those options.
Yeah.
We just get nothing.
Yeah.
Uh, so how do we
I
fix
that
it, Bree?
I I honestly
Solve my
don't.
problems.
Yeah, what I would love to do is have you come in and speak with our marketing department about some of those, and our DI director about some of those ideas, because I feel like getting external, feedback is sometimes so helpful, because sometimes we're limited by the amount of feedback we get back from our coworkers. And if we don't have enough demographic of that to fully represent ideas. I mean, I'm very excited to have a new DEI director to join us, because that's going to give us insight that we didn't have previously. But I do feel like the more you can ask, then you survey your customers on what's important to them and bring them in for, even in marketing, we try and do like an expert of the month kind of meeting where we bring in somebody who's knowledgeable about either a business line or an industry or something like that, and get them talking. That spurs new ideas on how we can incorporate that into what we do for marketing. So I feel like what we're lacking right now is enough feedback to pick the brain of that demographic and be able to fully represent them correctly. And it's just so funny you brought that up, because that's literally what we were talking about just yesterday.
So I heard we need a color scheme, and then we need to be noisier.
Uh-huh.
About like, we're here, we're
Yeah.
here. Had somebody from my church the other day, we were on a call, and she said something about, oh my God, I just found out that the land that we live on this used to be Comanche land, and that this is where the Comanches used to live. And I was like, and some of us still do. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Is that your okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the schools I feel like here do a good job with Native American history, at least from what I'm seeing my kids bring home. But obviously Texas has a long history of issues, but I'm seeing better stuff come out of the schools from what I'm seeing in Austin.
I will just say that I still every year have to talk to the schools about Thanksgiving plays and crafts.
Oh, yes. I mean,
Every
grammar, yeah, elementary, that's still a struggle. Hopefully they're catching on. I see my kids are a little older now, so they're a little more in depth and seeing more, different sides
Yep.
of the
And we
issue.
still have any number of local schools whose mascots are the Braves.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep. No, we're still your mascots.
Well, luckily I don't have to design or market.
No, you don't have any of those
Yeah.
problems. None of that is your fault, Bree. No, you're off the hook. So I want to talk about something that we haven't talked about before yet in this conversation, but that I am fascinated about as a phenomenon. My husband and I famously, we have certain phrases we say at each other all the time, right? Like when we're complaining about our horrible children, and we'll be like, have two, they say. They'll play amongst themselves, they
They
say,
say.
right? And yet here they are being horrible. One of the ones that we say is, because it has come up so many times in our lives, etc., is "Ugh, there's always a girl in marketing."
Uh-huh.
And it's like there is a cultural stereotype trope about the girl in marketing,
Yes.
and it's not very flattering.
Yes.
And it's pervasive enough that even in my relatively PC household, as I just said, it gets used. So, talk to me about this. First of all, have you felt and experienced that at some point in your career? Not
Mhm.
necessarily now. Obviously, now you're like the head chick in charge, so you don't have to deal with that kind of crap. But you didn't know you weren't always there. So,
Yeah.
have you had that experience or engagement before? Like, oh, you're the girl in marketing. All right, like
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely so many, it is a heavily female dominated role. And I'm not sure what the basis of that really comes from, but even in our own company, we were 100% female from, like, I want to say 2008 till just this year. We hired a male sales writer, and that was not because we only liked women. It was because we were getting a predominantly female candidate applying. So that does affect the way you market. Obviously,
sure.
first of all, it just not having an equal demographic thinking about your marketing message. It's going to play into the look and feel of marketing. But I feel like it's going to start changing a little bit in terms of getting more men interested in marketing, because tech has the opposite issue, right?
Yes.
Exactly opposite. Last stat I pulled, 73% or
So
so are men.
ridiculously
Yeah.
overwhelming. It's insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think women are seen as, I think the whole concept of girl in marketing comes from this idea that we make things pretty and we run events and think of all the little details, and we act in somewhat of a service capacity to a sales executive. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because there is the customer brand that you need to worry about, the touch points of the customer brand and engagement at all levels. So the way a company's marketing materials look, the way the event is run and handled, and the service of those marketing people at those events, for example, all play into the customer's engagement. However, I think that there's, as you start to go up the chain, there's just this natural progression of what you need to take over, and it becomes more about the budget and the analytics and sitting in sales meetings and sales goals, and so you start to just become elevated from that as you go up. And for me, I grapple with, as the team gets bigger or as you go up that ladder, you end up doing less of a thing you're passionate about, which is like graphic design. So, the more people who are reporting to me and working on the design itself, the more I'm answering questions, analyzing the strategy, being on email. It's not the fun part. You start to end up having to decide between rank, pay, and title versus fun, creativity, camaraderie between the design team and stuff. So that's one of the issues I think that women deal with as they move up in a marketing role. And then going back to what I was saying about the tech, I feel like we're going to start to see a lot more of tech and marketing overlapping. I mean, it's happening already. I think marketing girls are going to see how important the technology of SEO, customer journey, client management systems and asset management systems are, and start to go down that path and infiltrate the tech teams, and vice versa, because as these men are learning these, Salesforce initiatives and seeing how they can automate, and automate the marketing strategy, we're going to see more men coming into marketing. So I think as time goes on, there will be less of that stigma of, and anytime you get a huge group of girls together, there's this Mean Girls movie, right? You start to think it's catty and bitchy, and, I'm so fortunate that has never, ever happened to me in any of the companies that I've done design for. We've all worked really great together and been super good friends. I think what I notice more for me personally as being an issue is not the gender roles, but the age discrimination. Because as you get older and you've been doing design longer and longer, there just starts to be this impression that your designs aren't fresh, that you don't have new ideas, that you haven't done new stuff on TikTok, and you just start to become set in your ways. And that's going to be my biggest concern as I continue to age. I wouldn't want to be looking right now for new employment. And as I get older, it would be even more of a concern, because I've seen it happen to people who are super qualified that I know, who are struggling to find just then a basic graphic design role after having worked a long time as a director, because they are just seen as, well, they're just coming out of school, they've got this fresh portfolio,
they understand the Gen Zs on the TikTok. No, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. And I think that I like what you talked about, like that the roots of marketing come from this whole like being the assistant to the salesman kind of thing. And I think that I wonder if that's where the more negative and more misogynistic kind of parts that go with the girl in marketing, right? The stereotypes of being vapid and promiscuous and, super gossipy, like, right? Like that's that whole stereotype of the girl in marketing is that. And so I think that maybe the misogyny that comes from having been that in that assistant position, because hear the same thing, and like we've seen the same thing 1,000 times about secretaries previously, right? That like secretaries were easy on the eye and not very bright and like super like all of those, like just out to catch a man kind of. We've all seen those movies, right? Like 1,000 times. And so I think that that's really insightful as a place that like that comes from.
Yeah.
And I hope that you're right, that as marketing becomes more integrated with other areas and we all get a little bit smarter about how we talk and think about each other, that maybe we start to frame that differently. So
I think even because we're also a sales organization, and you see that with saleswomen as well, or real estate, anywhere where you feel like a woman is representing the company, we expect them to look and present themselves in a certain way. Then all of a sudden, if you're pretty, then you're just there to service and greet. And I definitely know that still happens. And I don't know what the answer is, but I do know, definitely look for, when you're applying for positions, read those glass doors, see how they treat their employees. That goes such a long way to knowing that you'll be respected. I mean, I know that like our company is 70% women, I think, and a majority of that is also in the executive, the strategic and the executive level. So if you go to a company's website and they are showing you that, the stats, and they're showing you that they've won Best Place for Women awards or that kind of thing, that will give you some relief, I think, that you'll be taken seriously. but it's still an ongoing issue of just the way you're read. If you're in a entry level position and you're pretty and you're helpful, all of a sudden you're seen as just in a service role there to do whatever bidding that they need. I don't see that at our company, but it's definitely still an issue, especially in the sales and staffing industry. I mean, there's plenty of articles about, how you look when you're selling, is all taken into account, and how do you go, around that and beat it and prove that that's not at all important. So yeah, I know it is an ongoing issue, but I don't feel that personally in the roles that I've been in.
Good. I am glad that you don't feel it personally. And I think that was a helpful kind of discussion and way of framing it. So I want to double back to, we've talked about the TikTok a few times now. So we're running out of time, but I would be remiss if I did not ask the creative director. Social media is where everything happens now.
Yeah.
So first question, what do you think is the most overrated social media platform for advertising for an organization?
Well, what's funny is I just read a blog. HubSpot put out an ebook about the state of marketing in 2022. And I was surprised to see that most companies see Instagram as their biggest revenue generator, which we don't advertise on Instagram at all. But we do do a lot of, that's where we do all our culture, branding. So we focus in the staffing industry on LinkedIn exclusively.
And I think LinkedIn is the number one most overrated place to spend your creative dollars personally. And I am not the expert that you are, but that would be my answer to that one.
I have some of my best friends work at LinkedIn, and I appreciate the platform for its being able to help people, job seekers. It really is. And I have my husband is going through the job searching process, and it's the easiest way to look for jobs.
I live on freaking LinkedIn. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slagging off the platform. I'm just saying that I feel like their ROI for advertising dollars vastly overrated. That or Facebook ads for services on Facebook. I think that people buy stuff on Facebook. Nobody's gonna buy
services. No, not at all.
So where do you think? What is your predictor for where is going to be the it place for social media in the next round? Are we all moving to TikTok? Is that it? We are just send videos to each other on the TikTok.
Videos is where it's at. Every survey or every marketing analytical report that comes out says videos are where it's at. It's all about what though are people wanting to watch about business to business, or it's hard to create engaging.
Hard to be jazzy on some shit people don't care about. Absolutely.
I mean, we really try and concentrate more on email, having the right customer journey, like what's important to them as a prospect, what's important to them now that they've started using staffing, and sending them the correct email messaging that way. And that's really where our company focuses most of it. We're not huge advertisers, and that's something that I actually really want to get more into and push our company to do, because we always say we're the little guy that the big guys know about. So we're not anywhere near the size of a Ronstadt or, a Robert Half.
A Deco or somebody.
A Deco or Manpower. But they know about us because we get a lot of people from those companies coming to us specifically for the culture that we build. So that's really where we spend a lot of our advertising is in, recruiting people into our industry that are really knowledgeable in the staffing field already, but are looking for a better place to work. But yeah, in terms of TikTok, we just started with it. We have a new content writer who is graciously doing all of our TikTok videos because none of us want to be on camera. We all hate being the ones to be the representatives. So she's been doing candidate focused tips and tricks based off of our blog content. So resume writing or how to, avoid distractions of work and that kind of thing. So a lot of what we do is not paid advertising, but more about just, we always say we're a grassroots company. We try to spread the word just based off of doing things right and not necessarily on our spend. I mean, we're an 8-person team and there's so many platforms and so many avenues for advertising and for marketing. There's only a limited number of things we can do, but we do a pretty good job. And luckily we do a great job of getting awards and not paying for them, but truly submitting some great work that gets some notoriety natively and not because we paid for a giant billboard on the 405 in California or something like that.
So we are over time. So I have one more question and then I have to end this, but this has been fabulous. We ask everybody. So Bree, how do you answer when somebody asks you how much you get?
You know what? I would tell them if someone asked me straight out and said, how much does that role make? I think it's beneficial to give someone an idea. I think I am fairly compensated for the size of the company and the role that I have with them. And if you want a salary guide, I made that. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll get you a salary guide. But yeah, no, I think that it's fair, completely in line with someone at my size company. I just feel like there's such a bigger issue than that. And I say that coming from someone who feels fairly paid. But number one, what people are looking for is, am I going to be fairly compensated for my time? But I'm really a big proponent of do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. And I really do feel like that's so much more important. I tell my kids this every time, find your passion and then start focusing on it, because I don't feel like I'm, of course I feel like I'm working. It's always hard work, but it's fun and and you're passionate about it. So that goes so much farther. And, really find a company, read those Glassdoor reviews, find somebody that is really promoting their culture first, and then work backwards and see, okay, I love what they're saying about the company. Their reviews are great. The position seems really interesting and involved. Okay, how much am I going to get paid for it? And is my time worth it with all those other factors built in? And, the benefits mean a lot too, so take that into consideration. And work-life balance, huge. Make sure that your company is allowing you to have time with your family and not be 8 a.m., 5 p.m., clock in, clock out. Are you meeting your goals while still, enjoying your life? So that's how I would answer it. I don't know if that's good enough.
That was a great answer. And that was lots of great advice. So there's the perfect note to say thank you so much. And I loved having you anytime you come back. You just let me know, Bree.
Thank you. This was fun. I loved it.
Thanks.
Bye.
You've been listening to Hey, I Want Your Job. For more information on how you can get your own awesome job, visit ONH Consulting at www.onhconsulting.com. We offer incredible resumes, no-nonsense career advice, and real-world tips for landing a job in today's market. Check us out on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Insta for more insider information. Soon, you'll be hearing us say, I'm Michelle Olivier, and hey, I want your job.